Welcome to Buckets, coming to you live from the Tommy John home studio. I'm your host, Brandon Anderson, here with Brian Fonseca. This is your 2025 NBA Draft Primer. Brian, we just barely put the wraps on the NBA season. We just crowned a champion. We already traded half the guys to other teams, and now it's NBA draft season. The draft is 2 rounds, as always, but as of last year, thanks to Bronny James, we got 2 separate days. So Wednesday night, first round, Thursday night, second round for the true sickos. And this is your primer. This is less about betting, odds, intel, all that good stuff. We should get you that day of the draft, especially with all of Matt Moore's intel there. Today's about Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, just the names of the top of the draft. If you've not really been paying attention to the draft, or you're just looking for a little more information, some scouting, what to watch for, who are the teams looking at, I missed out on March Madness, who are the international guys, this is our attempt in 1 hour to just kind of get you up to speed and ready to go. So we're just going to jump in and try to fly through as many names as we can get to. Brian, hello. I'm not even letting you respond. We're just going. We're going. Cooper Flagg, the guaranteed number 1 pick. You can't even really bet on anymore. He's so guaranteed. Talk to me about Cooper Flagg.
Weirdly, he's been a difficult player to compare to others. I've seen people throw out a lot of different names. I've seen Kawhi Leonard. I've seen Jason Tatum, which is probably the one that I like the most, but I'm still like a little unsure. But I guess I had some of the questions about Tatum coming in. It's like, all right, how is the jump shot going to be? How much is he going to be able to do on the ball? Defensively, what's that going to look like? And Jason Tatum's answered all those questions. He's resoundingly, a successful, highly successful top 6, 7, 8, 5 to some, 10 to others player, but was the best player on a championship team. We don't know if Cooper Flagg is going to be that. We don't think he has to be, at least for the time being, because in Dallas, while they do want to remain competitive, and I don't know what's that going to look like with Kyrie Irving injured, but Anthony Davis is still there. So Cooper Flagg will not be, if he's the best player on the Mavericks this year, that's a problem. That's going to absolutely be a problem. It should be Anthony Davis, but he's going to, I think, a good spot for a rookie. He can defend. The defense is the thing that I'm probably most looking forward to, because he can switch. He can defend multiple positions. He's long. The floor is high for him, I think, relative to a lot of other number 1 overall picks. While I'm unsure of, like, is he going to be a number 1? Is he best suited as a 2? Whatever, like how many all-star games, all those kind of things. The floor is high. Like, I feel good at a base level. Like, he will be a very, very good defensive player. And the offense, I think, will come along. There will be offense there. He could do some things with the ball. I'm intrigued by his playmaking ability. And we'll see with the jump shot. I think he'll be able to shoot, but I don't think it's going to be a Tre Johnson level of shooter. We'll get to him later. But I don't think Cooper Flagg is necessarily the best shooter in this draft. But I think he'll be able to create a shot. I feel good about that, at least. Yeah. And there's a lot that he can do that people should be excited about at the next level.
Yeah, I agree. Very, very high floor. Just like it's hard to even identify too many things about his game, even specifics that are even like a B- or a C level type thing. This is just, there aren't necessarily a ton of A+ things about him that leap off the page to me. It's just like if you made a list of 20 different NBA skills, I feel like we're like an A- just going down the list. A-, B+, A-, A, maybe an A+ in there a few times. I think feel for the game at his age. He reclassified. He is a year younger than most guys would be coming in here. He just can do so many things. He's comfortable with both hands. He's a big man. He's probably going to be a 4 ultimately in the NBA, but he's dribbling with both hands. He's finishing with both hands. He's got incredible touch around the basket. His decision-making, to me, incredible at age 18, age 17 for a lot of the games we saw at Duke. His creation, you mentioned, to me, that stands out the most. I think his ability to be a point forward, and especially this year with Kyrie Irving out for most or all of the year, he might actually get a lot of chance to create. And I don't know if that's great for Dallas futures right now this year, but I think it's a great opportunity for Cooper Flagg to develop that in the NBA. He created so well for Duke already. He really ran the offense, and you don't see that from a player at this age. He's an awesome rebounder, plays with high energy. He can score all the different ways. I don't really love the shot. I certainly don't think he's the best shooter in the class. I have some doubts on whether the 3-pointer is ever going to really be that great. I think it can be functional. Certainly it already is. I do think that if you're going to list off all the A+, A- things, I do think just sheer athleticism compared to NBA peers, he might be more like a B minus NBA athlete. We talked on the favorites yesterday. I've compared him to, what if you took LeBron James and his mentality and understanding of the game and his all-around game, and you trapped him in the body of a lanky white teenager from Maine? That's sort of what's happening here. And, there are limitations that come with that sort of thing. I agree. I think Jason Tatum is a really good comp, just on style of game a little bit, but on that like 5th to 10th best NBA player sort of range. I don't know that I agree quite with the folks that are like, oh yeah, future MVP, the next American MVP, that extra little boost, the one we've talked for years about with Tatum. I don't think I'm quite there. To me, I see Andrei Kirilenko, I think has been a really good comp for him. I think Franz Wagner, kind of a Franz 2.0 sort of fit, a point forward, a do everything sort of guy. The defense is so good already. The defensive playmaking, steals, blocks, grab and go, everything is there. He's a guy, to me, if I had to bet one or the other, I would bet Cooper Flagg NBA champion before I'd bet Cooper Flagg MVP. And that's a compliment. I mean that as a compliment. This is a winning player. It's going to make everyone else better. Dallas, what they have, like a 1.8% chance to get the guy. So they got to be feeling pretty good. Rookie of the year odds are already up at $1. We don't even have guys on teams yet. Cooper Flagg is minus 400. He's 80% implied to be a rookie of the year. What do you think, Brian? 80% rookie of the year?
I mean, what was Wemby? Wasn't it close?
I mean, I don't recall a minus 400. We haven't had a draft yet. We don't know who's on which teams. We're just setting it high.
That's tough. I don't know. I don't want to take any rookie of the year bets until I know who is where. There are rookies in this draft that I absolutely love, and there are other ones that scare the shit out of me that we're going to talk about. But he'll be a rookie of the year favorite all season long. I do wonder, like, will he have the numbers playing with Anthony Davis and playing with everyone else in Dallas? He might, but I don't know. I don't definitively know that. I don't know how Jason Kidd is going to use him and all these different things, but yeah, I'm just not betting. I'm never betting a minus 400 future. Yeah, I'm just never doing it.
There's just no reason to give the books your money to at 25% return 11 months out or whatever. Playing with Anthony Davis, as always, a bit relative. How often will he actually play with Anthony Davis, or will he get like a toenail that day and have to be out on the sideline? I think it's a very interesting environment for him to develop in. I think he's going to get a chance to run the offense. I think he's going to get a chance to play some games as the guy when Anthony Davis is not playing that night. He'll get a chance to not be the guy, which is kind of great, but it might be out of position as a small forward. I think he's more of a 4, even a small ball 5 maybe as he develops a little further. Defensively, Cooper Flagg and Anthony Davis and a center. I don't know about what the guards are on the team, but man, that could be a pretty nasty defense at times when they figure things out together. So definitely a team to watch. Obviously, there will be plenty more Cooper Flagg conversation forward. It looks like the number 2 pick is pretty much set in stone also. Dylan Harper from Rutgers, 19 years old, 6'5" guard. To me, reminds me a lot of a younger James Harden before we got to the older, bearded, more boring James Harden, the MVP James Harden. But let's be fair, he's a big, strong guard. I think he's not a great defender right now, as most guard prospects are, but he's got almost a 7-foot wingspan. I think a lot of defensive potential as he develops. A lot of those Harden-y things, the hang dribble, the handle, the long stride attacking to the rim. He can create space and get his own shot up. He can get the shots for others. He gets to the rim a lot of just like a walking paint touch here. Really good just coordination and balance, especially for someone that's just turned 19 years old. I'm very high on Dylan Harper. What are you thinking with him?
I saw a comparison to Cade Cunningham that I found interesting.
Yeah.
I think he's faster. He feels faster than Cade Cunningham, or at least will play faster than Cade Cunningham. Harper's interesting. He's a safe number 2 pick. You're higher on his upside than I expected when we talked about this in the favorites yesterday. I do like him, though. I think he's going to be in a great environment where you go in and it's like at least for the time being, Castle, Wemby, De'Aaron Fox. I anticipate those three guys will be there. It's some of the other ones where I'm like, okay, if you
Sure.
have Dylan Harper, I don't know what's going to happen to Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, so on and so forth. But I feel good about those other guys being there. That's a great situation for a rookie. That's an even better situation than the one that Cooper Flagg is going to. Harper has a sick in and out move when
So
he's
good.
able to use it and get to the lane. And just drive through, can finish through contact is a really, like, I think he's going to be a really good finisher in the pros. Maybe you struggle with it in your rookie year because that's what happens. But I mean, having Wemby there is going to help potentially create some driving lanes as well. If Wemby's going to pop out to the perimeter, like they can use him in some fun, creative ways. And I think with Castle and De'Aaron Fox, I wonder like how that's going to go just from a perimeter standpoint, and obviously Wemby, who has perimeter skills. So I have some questions about that. I don't think Harper's going to need to put up the gaudy numbers. Like he's not a guy I would look for in Rookie of the Year, given that we know where he's going to go. He's not one of the places I'm going to look for. I just think he's going to have a solid, productive rookie season. And I really like his ability to create. I have questions about the defense too, but he at least has a physical profile where he can be passable. Like he's not somebody who's, say, 6'2" and 170, and you're like, well, if you can't score, I mean, I don't think you're going to be able to defend. You know what I mean? And we had Rob Dillingham go in the top 10 last year, and I was like, are you sure? You sure about this? But
Yeah.
I think with Harper, yeah, like he can create a shot, he can finish, and I think he's a safe, high floor, again, number 2 pick. And he's not the guy at Rutgers that I'm worried about. That's what I'll say.
Well, we'll get to him in a second. Yeah, I am pretty high on the ceiling here. It's a little bit in part, we talked about this with the favorites as well. I would give Dylan Harper slightly better odds to be a future MVP than I would Cooper Flagg. Now, slightly better is relative. Like, you don't draft anybody thinking they're a future MVP if you were realistic about where things go. Mm-hmm. Just the way the NBA is going. You mentioned Cade Cunningham. I mentioned the early James Harden comp. That ball dominant, do everything guy. He's tall. He's going to be able to see over the defense and get his passes there. He's a better scorer than passer naturally, but his height kind of evens that field out for him. The jumper is the swing. We saw that with Cade coming in. His jumper is a big question mark. I think the mid-range and just like the 3-point, other than catch and shoot, that's been really good. But if you're going to be the guys we're talking about, you got to be able to get the pull-up. You got to be the 3-level scorer, and I think that needs some work still. So it's going to take some time. I agree. This is not a rookie of the year bet you want to look for on the Spurs because there's just too many other options in the way. For me, though, thinking about Spurs long term, number one, I didn't even think twice about this pick. This has always been Dylan Harper. I've never been trading this pick. And number two, this is Wemby and Harper. That's my team. I'm going to fit Stephon Castle in there. I'm going to see how De'Aaron Fox works. We got him almost for free. Maybe we're going to flip him for something else. I like how Devin Vassell fits the team. This is Wemby and Harper. This is my team. That's how I think of them prospect-wise. Obviously, Wemby by miles. But to me, Harper ahead of the other guys. And then I go from there. So I don't mind taking him onto the team. I'm excited to take him onto the team. We got 3 guards that don't really fit together. That's fine. We got a lot of years of Harper and Wemby to figure things out. We kind of see how things fit and go from there. Castle, Fox, definitely good trade assets at the very least. You mentioned the other guy from Rutgers. So let's stay with Rutgers. If you're coming new to the draft here, 2 of the top 3 guys on many players' boards are Rutgers players. Rutgers, remember them in March Madness? Yeah, me neither, because they didn't make the tournament. They barely made the Big Ten tournament this season. Rutgers was not good. They didn't have good spacing, so that was a negative for Dylan Harper. 65% finishing for him, despite the bad spacing. He didn't get a ton of help at times from his teammate Ace Bailey. So let's talk about Ace. He's been 3rd on many draft boards throughout the year. He's become kind of the story of the week because Flagg at 1, Harper at 2. Those are locked. You can't even really bet those, a lot of books. The draft, quote unquote, starts at number 3. Philadelphia 76ers. That's where we're kind of starting things out here. And a lot of mocks for a while had Ace Bailey at 3. He's no longer the favorite. So we'll get to the guy that is the favorite there in a bit, who I know you like. But talk to me about Ace Bailey. Why has he become such a story this week, and why are you skeptical?
It's just the way, like, it's being handled in terms of the reports about him not working out for teams, not meeting with teams. Some people are accusing him of trying to get to a certain team where he can have a higher usage and get more shots up. I don't know if his team is doing enough to debunk that necessarily, because that's not a narrative that's like not prevailing there. I listen to the Joe Budden podcast occasionally, and someone on there, Ish, said that he was involved with Ace Bailey's team, and that was an interesting little tidbit there to hear on their of all shows. But I just think, like, with Ace Bailey, I hope he becomes like Paul George-ish, but like, I don't know. He likes to hold the ball a lot, like an alarming amount. He'll take a shot. Like, there's not a shot that he fears on the floor. I know that there's a chase down block compilation that got people excited, but I don't think he's going to be like an all world defender unless he really commits to it. I fear that he could be a poor man's Carmelo Anthony, like a really poor man's Carmelo Anthony. And I like Carmelo Anthony. I'm probably, if we're surveying the network here, who's pro Melo, who's not, I am on the pro Melo side of that. But the bad version of that is what you don't want, because that's how you wind up with like Cam Reddish, no disrespect. Like, that's sort of the fear, is like, is he going to become one of those guys where it's like you're seeing flashes of all these future Hall of Famers because of the shot making and all these different things. Like, there's some Melo here, there's some Tracy McGrady here, there's this, that, and the third, but like, it's kind of just highlight tape nonsense, and then they can't put it together on an NBA floor, and thus they can't get the minutes that, you know, they can't earn the minutes rather that the talent sort of warrants. And then this team can't figure it out, so they trade him. Then they trade him to somewhere else because they can't figure it out. And then you wind up on the Lakers barely playing. Like, that's just kind of how it goes. So I fear that that's like the worst case, like, alarming sort of scenario. Like, hopefully that's not the case. Like, I legitimately would like to see all these guys succeed. But Ace Bailey, like, there are some concerns. There are some red flags that are warranted. There are some questions people have on and off the court that are going to need answering. But ultimately, if he gets to the right spot and he produces, then we will limit those questions. But if he doesn't produce, then they'll get louder and louder, and that's just the belly of the beast.
Yeah, and it really does feel like he's kind of leaning into that public perception of what everyone thinks he is. He's just kind of like that. The moves this week, the noise this week is kind of like, yeah, that is who I am. And I'd like to go ahead and be that on the Nets, who could just use somebody to get some buckets up. Can I be tall Cam Thomas? That sounds good to me. You know, like he seems to be eyeballing that on, you know, the Nets or maybe the Wizards, just a team where there's like, give me some shots to put up. This guy is like, this is a bucket. This is a hooper. Like, this is that guy. You compared him to Melo. I think I would go even more like maybe like a homeless man's Kevin Durant, as just like think of well, I was gonna say Olympic Durant, Olympic Melo. Same thing. The guys are just like, just give me the ball, shots going up, and like that's how he plays the game. But the criticism of both of those guys, fairly and unfairly at times, has been, okay, but how are you elevating the teammates around you? How are you making the team better? Or are you just a bucket? Because he had more turnovers than assists this season. He was supposed to be a point guard at one point. He is a black hole offensively. If he gets the ball, the shot's probably going up. He's not really getting to the free throw line, and he shot under 70% at the line for a perceived great shooter. Other names I have for him here, just to kind of give you a context of how I feel. MPJ, Andrew Wiggins, Harrison Barnes. Remember Imani Bates? Like, these are all dudes that were top 3 high school recruits, and they were supposed to be these bucket dudes, and they kind of all were varying degrees of that. Now, look, MPJ, Wiggins, and Barnes are all NBA champions. They all found out later there was so much there that they did become a player that contributed somewhat to championships. I actually like the defensive playmaking upside here. I think his hands and his shot blocking, there's something there. He got some steals this season. The shot selection is terrible. The media stuff this week with him has not been a good look for him. I struggle here because I can't believe this. This is not my kind of player at all. Like, that list of guys I just named are the guys that I have like 15 years of writing just like trashing over the years. but they all got there and became champions. This dude is not even 19 years old yet. He's basically the same size as Cooper Flagg. The jumper is clear. Like, you can't find that in most drafts. There's not a guy that can just get to the shot like this. And to me, after the top two in this draft, it really falls off for just upside of huge impact NBA players. I think Ace is a huge impact. Now, I don't know if it's a huge positive impact, but I think he's going to have an impact. And to me, the Sixers are a little bit different because there's a lot of talent there already. But a lot of the teams are drafting the top because they just need some big time talent. And for me, versus some of the other shooting guards here that are like, okay, you're going to be in my rotation for a while, I almost might take a home run swing at Ace. And I think, too, even with all the talk about not going to Philly and maybe trying to duck that, Daryl Morey is not afraid. Daryl Morey has never been afraid to do whatever he wants and take him at 3. One. So I think that's in play. I will look, if the odds get super long for an Ace Bailey at 3, I think that's worth a nibble just on the off chance that Daryl says, screw you, I'm taking you anyway.
Yeah, and I'll throw this out there. He likes pedigree. So does the guy in Utah, Danny Ainge. Likes pedigree. So does Charlotte, seemingly, with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller already on their roster. Another name that I just thought of in terms of like what Ace Bailey can be that people might like, might not, depends on your perception of this player, is Brandon Ingram, who was also a very high-level high school player, similarly, like kind of a black hole offensively and things. Like, there's a really good version of Ace Bailey, like NBA level, like elite good. There's a reason why people were like, hey, could he be the number 1 overall pick over Cooper Flagg, like a long time ago? But this was a thing like pre-Rutgers, right. Like people were like, all right, who's challenging Cooper Flagg? And this was the common name, one of the common names that would come up. So there's a version of him that's very worrisome, but there's also a version of him in there that can be awesome. But, you know, we'll see where he goes.
Yeah, this is a dude that, like, a portion of NBA Twitter and the internet is going to make all the clipped videos of, like, the jumper is wet. Look at the bucket. Like, you know who those clips are, and it's going to come with him. And we'll see if the overall game comes with it. So the favorite at number 3 is not Ace Bailey anymore. The favorite at number 3 is a guy you love, VJ Edgecombe from Baylor. I want to love VJ Edgecombe. I was a little disappointed with his measurements, that he comes out more like, I think he's got to be a true shooting guard. I wanted him to be a Trevor Ariza, a 3 that could play some 4. He's a little small for me, but I know you love him. Make the case. What do you love about VJ Edgecombe?
He's a guy who translates better in pro basketball than college basketball, I think. If you saw him at Baylor, I think that's clear. Also, Baylor, just a weird guard rotation. He played with 2 dudes who were 6'1", Jeremy Roach being one of them. Like, it was weird, like, just watching them play and how I would come away, why isn't he having the ball more? But that's college basketball. The best player doesn't have the ball, have a 30% usage or whatever the case may be. He had a 24, didn't even have the highest usage rating on his team, nor Chad O'Meara did. VJ Edgecombe, if you watch not the Lou High stuff, because that's high school, although obviously in New York, like, we've known about VJ for a while. The Bahamian national team and Olympic qualifiers, he played there alongside NBA players like Buddy Hield and Eric Gordon, for example, in 2024. And that's where you see him up against pros, some of the guys who would beat, these college guys, even though, like, it's Finland, it's Poland or whatever, but these are still some of the better national teams in the world in the top. I'm trying to remember if it's 20, 25, 30, but regardless, like, they were in an Olympic qualifying tournament. Not everybody gets that chance. 24 teams do, as a matter of fact. They went against Spain and they lost that game. That was to potentially qualify for the Olympics. And it was in Spain. Spain was the favorite. Spain ended up winning that game. But you see it in all these games, like the defensive capabilities, the defensive flashes. He's not going to guard 4s, but I think he could guard 1 through 3. I feel comfortable in saying that. Yeah. I think the defensive floor is going to be high there. The motor should be high defensively. The athleticism is ridiculous. And I think athleticism can be overrated, but I think his athleticism, like, he was trying to yam it on guys in the Olympic qualifying tournament and in college all season long, just like all the time. He's constantly trying to dunk on people. The question for me is just how good of a shooter he's going to be. He has the tools. He wasn't an awful shooter in college. And then also the finishing ability as well. That's the other thing. He needs to be better at the rim, needs to be better finishing. So, like, there's some polish that needs to be there. from an offensive standpoint. I think he's the guy that he will show flashes in his rookie year, and you'll see him progress to where it's like, oh, okay, we could be talking about an all-star a few years from now. Maybe the end of his rookie deal, maybe it's the beginning of the next contract. I think it's going to take a few years or whatever, but I'm very high on what he could be because I think the defense is potentially there, multi-positional defending, just has to develop that jumper. But I think his jumper has a better chance of becoming legitimate than a lot of other guys in this draft, because there's a lot of guys where you look up and there's a lot of potentially just broken jumpers in this draft class. I think there's a lot of talent here, but there's a lot of guys who really like are a jump shot away, but a jump shot away from being a jump shot away. I don't think VJ Edgecombe is that far from a shooting perspective. So what do you think? Like you're not as high. You have some questions. Where are you at?
Yeah, so I mean, not as high as relative. He's 5th on my board, so I'm not exactly low on him. It's just I have him a tier below Ace and one other guy that we'll get to next. To me, I think I'm like 85% of the way there on all the things you said. I like so much about VJ. Loved watching him. To me, he looks like a 16 gamer. He looks like someone I can put into my playoff rotation right now. He is versatile. He can defend a lot of dudes. He can play with the ball. There's some maybe point guard potential there. I think he ran point a little bit more for Bahamas. Not really much opportunity with Baylor, but I like so much. I think the 15% that I'm missing is I can't quite get there on the, like you said, he's a future all-star. I don't know if I'm a future all-star in VJ Edgecombe. I think he's a future, like a second team all-star or a sub all-star, whatever you want to think of, like, and those are very valuable players. But to me, like, again, I had Mikal Bridges as a comp for him, but he's smaller. He's like 4 inches smaller than Mikal Bridges. I love those guys. I want those guys on all my teams. And Mikal Bridges fetched like 4 first-round picks and a bajillion dollars. Like, really good players. You want these guys on your team. It's just at the number 3 pick, I'm like, man, I'm taking like a high-end 3-and-D wing possible, and someone that I can't even like move up to the 4. I can't quite sell myself on the ceiling as far as you are on there, but I think there are a lot of paths to the ceiling. Maybe it's the shot, like you said. Maybe it's a little bit more time on the ball and some creation. I don't know that he's a lockdown defender. I think he's a really good defender. I think he's really good at all the things you said. I just can't quite sell myself on any one of them becoming great to kind of make that star leap. But do I think VJ Edgecombe or Ace Bailey is the better NBA player in a few years? VJ every single time. It's just that at the top of the draft, a lot of teams, I think, maybe should take the home run swing. I think VJ Edgecombe is a double swing that could push a triple if the ball goes to the right direction. But I don't know if I see a home run there is all.
3rd on my big board. The comparison that I've seen that I've liked the most, and one that I've made myself, is probably like Victor Oladipo. And this might sound weird for some people because Victor Oladipo was somebody who did get hurt. His run was pretty short. He made 2 All-Star games and was never quite the same. And then he rehabbed more than he played when he was with the Heat. And then it was kind of over after that. But at his peak, Victor Oladipo was legit, like an all-NBA guy. Like, he was really good. One of the best two-way players for like a short stretch. I think that's sort of what I'm looking for. Like, if he can be that consistently, he can get there. Like, yeah, that'll justify a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a good case. Victor Oladipo is a really good high-end outcome. And let's hope for Indiana fans still reeling from another tragic end of two-way player season era. Let's hope that that's the only Victor Oladipo comp there. So I mentioned I had one other guy in a tier above him. Jeremiah Fears is my other guy. He's my number 3 on my board. And I know, yeah, you got the face there. He's really a guy that's been all over the place on boards. I think this is about as high as you see people on him. I've seen people totally out on him, like out of the lottery entirely, which is a pretty big range for a player that I'm ranking this high. Yeah. So Fears is a point guard, played at Oklahoma. He's one of the youngest players in the draft. He hasn't even turned 19 yet. He's only 6'2", so not great size here. Just electric athlete, electric guy that is going to just run right by you. Incredible first step. He's going to get by you with a step. He has, I think, clearly to me, the best handle in the class, one of the better handles that we've seen just in recent years. He is aggressive. He is a walking paint touch. He's going to get to the basket. He needs to finish better. the athleticism is more bursty than it is explosive. So that is a little bit of a drawback, is can I finish after I got there? And he's drawing a lot of free throws, which is pretty great as an 18-year-old in the SEC. He's averaging 17, 4, and 4 in the SEC. That like had 4 of the top 7 or 8 teams in March Madness this year. So great job there. His shot, I don't really know, but I feel good about it. He shot 85% free throws this year on a lot of free throws a game. So the three-pointer, 28%, not great, and not great volume, but usually your free throw shot percentage is going to give you more volume and a better chance of where's that going. The shot looks good. I feel good it can get there. To me, I look at maybe like a Darius Garland type player here. And again, that's the player not without limitations. That's an all-star on the 1 seed this year, but it's not the best player on the team. The defense is going to be an issue when you're 6'2" point guard. You just can't be a great defender. If Fears is what I want him to be offensively, that's okay. You're going to surround him with defenders and do some other things then. He makes a lot of mental mistakes. He plays like a young player because he's a young player. He also reclassified. His finishing needs to work. He needs to dribble a little less and work on the shot selection. But I think at Oklahoma this year, that's kind of what they wanted him to do, was just, here's the whole leash and a little extra leash. Just go do stuff for us. So yeah, you see right away when you watch him, oh, that dude's little, but that little dude just ran right by me. And he took the ball with him and he's doing stuff. So to me, again, I don't love in a vacuum Jeremiah Fears, my number 3 on my board. It's a big drop for me after the top 2, but I'm looking home run swing. And to me, Fears and Bailey are the 2 other actual, for me, like all-star, multi-all-star, maybe all-NBA if things go right sort of swings. Fears is kind of all over the place. I look maybe at Utah to number 5. I would not bet a top 5 pick because I don't think there's really at all a fit for either of the 4 teams before that. But to be exactly number 5, Utah has new management there. So do they believe in Isaiah Collier? Do they believe in Keontae George? Fears is a level above that. And if they're not invested in those guys with Ainge now, why not invest in a guy if they agree with me, which who knows if they do, but if they think there's some star potential there for either him or Ace Bailey, Utah needs a star potential. So that's what I think. I'm very high on Jeremiah Fears. Where are you at with him?
I've gone back and forth on him a lot because sometimes I'm like, man, how could you not be tantalized by the athleticism, the ability to create a shot? He can get to where he wants to go. I think there's some playmaking there that could be tapped into even further. I think as a playmaker, he's one of the better ones in this draft, or at least can be. Defensively, I have questions, but I'm not completely out on him potentially as a defender. I think there's some tools there. There's definitely some athleticism there. He needs the jump shot. Like, he absolutely needs jump shot to hit. Now, to your point, because I love this point, 85% on free throws and with volume, with legitimate volume. Like, he shot 85% on free throws, 6.3 attempts per game in college. So I think the jumper can get there. Like, he's 28% on college 3. Yeah, I don't think he's going to walk into the league and all of a sudden that's going to be turned up to like 36, 37%, which would be awesome. But the foundation, the base is there. He needs to go to the right spot and just continue to work on it. He needs a jumper. Otherwise, I feel like he could fall into like Dennis Smith Jr. territory, which would be worrisome for like the athletic guards. But if he has a jump shot, forget it. Like, I love it as a ceiling sort of play. Like, if you're looking to hit a home run, I think Jeremiah Fears is one of those dudes. Supposedly he's been doing well in his workouts and things of that nature. He wasn't projected to go this high a couple months ago. And he's been one of the guys who has risen up boards, it feels like. So I think he'll go in the top 10. And I think there's an outside shot. He does go into that top 5. Maybe it has to be that 5th spot. That'll shake things up too in terms of who falls from there. But yeah, I think Fears could be potentially really, really good. It's just the questions are with the jump shot. They start there for me. And then with the defense. But I would be more concerned with the shooting now, because a lot of these guards, like, I have defensive questions. Edgecombe, we just talked about, he's one that I don't have questions about, but like, that's a rarity. It's much more common to be like, how is this guard going to be defensively? And then sometimes you see it right away, and sometimes you don't.
I agree. Go Yard all baseball season long with Underdog's Pick'em game. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play now in your state. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? To play, all you have to do is download the app and choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats. You can choose from things like home runs, strikeouts, total bases, so much more. Once your picks feel good, you can play with as little as $1. If you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. We had a lot of fun on buckets this season, all throughout the playoffs, going higher or lower on points and rebounds and steals and assists, all that good stuff. I've already got an eye on some football heading forward. If you're into baseball, we got baseball games all day, every day, all summer. Be sure to check that at Underdog. Download the Underdog app and sign up with promo code BUCKETS100 to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code BUCKETS100. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. All right, let's kind of pick up the pace here as we get past this top set of players here. So top of the draft, number 1, Dallas, we know Cooper Flagg. Number 2, Spurs, Dylan Harper. We talked about Philly at 3. Just kind of set up the draft from there. Charlotte at 4, Utah 5, Washington 6, New Orleans 7, Brooklyn 8. If those all sound like the teams I should be picking at the top, we agree. Remember, the lottery was weird. These teams kind of all fell down a little bit. These are the bad teams. These are the teams with a lot of blank slates. So, Brian, 2 of the other names that get talked about a lot near the top, they're expected to be possibly top 5, if not too far after. Kon Knueppel from Duke, Tre Johnson from Texas. Talk to me about those 2 guys.
Yeah, Kon Knueppel has really risen up boards as well. And I think it's because people realize like he's kind of this do-it-all, high floor, not necessarily the highest ceiling, but high floor type of dude, high IQ player. I know that sounds like code for a white dude, but he legitimately is a very smart player. Kon Knueppel, like he looks like he's going to do everything well. He seems like someone who's going to do everything efficiently. And he seems like somebody who's destined to be on a winning basketball team. Whether that's he goes to a bad team that suddenly becomes a winning team, not mainly due to him, but it just so happens like there are some dudes who are just straight up winners. Like it feels like Alex Caruso always finds himself on a team that's competitive. Even the Bulls went to the playoffs when he was there, for example. Like these things sort of happen. So Kon Knueppel is one of these guys who could find, just the right situation. And I think he can grow. Love the fact that he can catch and shoot. I think that's going to be one of the more interesting things as part of his skill set. And we'll see defensively where he sort of is. And I think that'll be team dependent as well. I don't know where he's going to go because we're seeing like potentially Charlotte at number 4, which is not where people had him projected a couple of months ago. But even that would be like an interesting situation where it's like, okay, he's somebody who won't need the ball as much as a Brandon Miller or a LaMelo Ball. He's somebody who could fit in a smooth way. And for Charles Lee, who I think is going to, prove himself to be a pretty good coach, like maybe Charlotte could actually get something going there and not have a whole bunch of ball dominant players and maybe move off Miles Bridges or something if they can. Tre Johnson, I love. He's one of my favorite players here. He's one of the only guys in this draft who I'm confident could make a shot, could make an open 3-pointer. That's big. As somebody who likes just classic shooting guards, he reminds me of Allen Houston a lot. Like a modern 2025 version of Allen Houston who doesn't need the ball, who can catch and shoot, but could also create and could also get downhill and potentially go to the free throw line. Like he has a good size for this wing position too. He's listed about 6'6". I think he'll fill out more. He's listed like 190 from what I've seen. I'm forgetting what his weight was at the combine, but if he gets to that 210 range, like that's great for that 6'5", 6'6" frame. Got to the free throw line over 4 times per game in college. I think in the pros, like that's going to be essential too, because his finishing ability does need some work. Yeah. But gets to the free throw line, he could shoot, pull up mid-range jumpers. He could shoot from 3. He's just a classic. Like I think he has a high floor from a scoring perspective. It's all about can he hold up on defense and can he finish at the rim?
Yeah, I think that you covered those guys really well. We've talked before coming in. I'll let you comment on this in a bit, but this is not a great draft for shooters. These are two guys that this is not a question for. Kon Knueppel and Tre Johnson are going to shoot the lights out. That's the one thing we know about both guys. I think with Knueppel, it's very easy to fall into the trap that I think I fell into early of like, oh, okay, Joe Harris. Oh, okay, like white shooter. A little pudgy white shooter. I know who this guy is. I've seen him play all throughout. Like I had him, I was like, oh, okay, we got like a 12-year starter as the worst starter on the team. I think that's selling Kon Knueppel a little short. I do have some doubts about just he's had a rough combine, not great like lane agility, like really rough numbers on some of those things, not great measurements. That's not what you're drafting Kon Knueppel for. His feel for the game, his quick decisions, moving the ball along. He's got a little more creation than you think, both for his own shot and for teammates. He's not going to be point guard, but he's not just a spot up shooter. This is not like Duncan Robinson, Jason Capona over there, taller guys, I know, but he's able to do a lot more than just catch and shoot the ball. I think maybe more, how about Desmond Bain? How about Austin Reeves? Like the third guy on the team. We're not looking at a star here, but those are good players on teams that we think are like possible top 2-3 seeds that are possible contenders for title teams. So yeah, I think just kind of somebody that should walk in and be in your rotation for the next decade with very few questions. I have a few more questions about Tre Johnson. I love watching him at Texas. He is pretty directly the exact sort of guy I love to not watch in the NBA. You know, if I think of who does Tre Johnson remind me of? One of them just got traded today as we're recording. Jordan Poole is kind of a very similar potential outcome. Your guy, Tyler Hero, I think is in range.
Not my guy.
I guess I know that's not your guy. If I'm going to call that your guy, how about my guy, Zach LaVine? I also had in this mix CJ McCollum, who literally Poole got traded for. I mentioned Cam Thomas earlier. Like, these are kind of the range. He's a bucket. He's another one of those bucket guys. The problem is he doesn't have the size of Ace Bailey. He's 5 inches, I think, or 4 inches shorter. He also, you mentioned the finishing. He doesn't even really get to the rim altogether too often from what you would hope that he will, or to the line quite as much. And so, okay, if you can knock down the shots, that's great, but I need you to do a little more than just hit the jumper. And even I worry that he sort of settles for the jumper a little bit. So I initially had him in my Fears Bailey group of like, I want the home run swing. The problem for me is even the version of Tre that really hits, those guys I listed, like I don't really want them on my team. I'm sorry. Like those are guys that like even when they're really good, they're Zach LaVine all-star version, who this is not going to be because Zach's getting to the bucket over and over again and has way more athleticism than what Tre Johnson does. But even that guy, I'm like, oh yeah, you're a quote all-star, but like I'd really rather not have your contract on my team. We can like make the 6th seed with you, but I'd rather a different version of a team. So I understand if he'd be a little bit higher. I get the hype for him.
Well, just real quick, this is why I mentioned the off the ball stuff. If he can be more, this is going to sound like slander, but if he can be more Desmond Bain than Tyler Hero, I think that's a better outcome. Like someone who just doesn't need that high of a usage to be effective. And ideally, Tre Johnson, hopefully you survive on defense, but we'll see.
Hopefully. All right, let's talk about big men. Obviously, we know the NBA is always going to be about size. I notoriously hate almost all big men in almost every NBA draft. I think big men are just consistently overdrafted year after year after year. So to no shock, I really don't love this year's big men class either. But I know there are 2 guys at least that you really do like. So I'm going to let you give us the sale, and I'll give a little bit of why I don't like them as much. Derik Queen from Maryland and Khaman Maluach from Duke. 2 guys both expected to be potential top 10 picks, certainly expected in the lottery. Talk to me about Queen and Maluach.
Yeah, I think so. I mentioned Derik Queen yesterday in the favorites as somebody who's like, he can be really good or he could be out of the league in 5-6 years. Maluach is kind of similar. Like there was a version of, this is going to sound like a lazy comparison, but I'm not making a direct comparison. This is a version of like, there's a version of Thon Maker that could have been really good. I believe that, but we didn't get it. It just happens, right? Khaman Maluach, the fit again matters, especially more the lower you go in the draft, the more the fit matters. It's just ultimately what it is. And with Derik Queen, it's going to matter so much. We'll start with him actually. I compared him to Alperen Sengun a little bit because I mean there aren't a lot of offensive minded bigs on a good teams. And ideally, he would probably be somebody who's on a good team. But if you're getting drafted in the top 10, which he may or may not, we'll see. I, there's a chance he winds up in Phoenix, for example, because Phoenix has seemingly wanted a center, didn't get one in the Durant trade, but still has pathways to getting one. If one of these guys drops, and Maluach probably has a better shot of going inside the top 10 than Derik Queen does. If Derik Queen goes to 10 and is with Devin Booker, I don't hate that outcome because Devin Booker's there, but I also don't know how long Devin Booker is going to be there for. And oh, by the way, Jalen Green is there and Dylan Brooks is there. So it's just kind of weird. Like, these are players like in a vacuum. It's like, oh, okay, like I see the vision, but together it's like, oh, what's really going on here? So I would hope that a team that gets them could lead into, like, I think there's a good playmaker for a big there. I think there's a potential offensive hub there. I just fear that he's going to be someone who's relegated to, hey, go get your 8 points and 4 rebounds in 11 minutes and then just go sit down. And potentially somebody who, and this is the thing that I have questions about though, the defense. The defense, yeah. It's just, I don't think he's an anchor is what I'll say. So I do worry that he could fall into like the Jahlil Okafor thing fast. But there's a shooting touch. There's a real, like, he can get to the rim from the perimeter for a big man, and he could do it pretty quickly. There's some post work there that I love as well. But, you know, the right situation matters, and I don't know how much faith I have in an NBA team and using him correctly. And then quickly with Khaman Maluach. Very raw, but there's a lot of tools there. There's a potential to be a jump shooter. There's a potential to be a much more of a rim protector than Derik Queen is. It's just a matter of, is he going to like refine those skill sets? Because I think he has a lot of interesting attributes. Like, I think he has one of the highest ceilings in this draft because of all the things he can do as a pick and roll partner and as a pick and pop partner combined with the defense. And, you know, I think there's a legit skill level there. But again, raw, has to develop and has to go to a spot that's going to develop him well. And in the top 8, top 9, like I don't know if that's going to be the case, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm very skeptical on both of these guys. To me, the problem where I come to with big men and why I often am lower on them in the draft, there's so many of them that have these clear flaws. You just laid out the flaws very, very fairly on both these guys. And to me, you know, it's a draft. You're going to have guys with flaws up and down the roster, but there's so many big men dime a dozen these days that if I don't have a path to get the upside, then I don't know why I need to invest in the flaws and the risk of the downside. I agree. I think either or both these guys would be real threats to not get a second contract if things do not go well for them, that they're just, you know, playing ball in Europe or something after that. Maluach has really, really poor hands. I don't trust him to be able to kind of, he's supposed to be, you know, he's huge. He's a huge dude. His size alone is probably going to give him multiple chances in the NBA. But he only has played ball for a few years, obviously with coming up from South Sudan. Very cool story. A dude you want to root for sure. I don't trust his hands. I don't trust his ability to finish around the rim, even though he has very comfortable touch there. It really bothered me, I'll be honest, that the last time we saw him on a court, he played against Houston in the Final Four and got 0 rebounds. None. Zilch. You can't be 8 feet tall or whatever he is and get 0 rebounds. And Houston plays physical. They play fast. They play NBA type sort of ball on defense on the glass. That really bothered me. I know a 0 is easy to anchor to, but to me, the rawness, it's for sure we're a project here. And I kind of wonder about, like, you know, growing up in the 90s, remember Sean Bradley is like the dude on everybody's poster? Yeah. I'm a little worried that Maluach might be like the other guy on guys' posters. Like, he's tall, so I'm going to posterize him. Derik Queen, so I have Maluach in my 20s on my board. I have Queen barely even in the first round. Like, he effectively is just off the board for me. To me, he is a poor man's Naz Reid. And I think you know, Brian, and the listeners know by now how I feel about Naz Reid. I don't see this hub offensive thing that other people are seeing. If I want an offensive hub center, I see one. I think his name is Danny Wolf from Michigan, and I'm kind of intrigued by Danny Wolf. I actually think that he's a more interesting offensive hub. I'd love to see a team with Jokic or Şengün or Sabonis. I'd love to see them get Danny Wolf and have like 20 minutes of him off the bench to just kind of keep that hub moving that direction. I don't see that with Queen. He had a ton of turnovers this year. He definitely can make the passes, but I don't know that I trust his reads to make them. I also don't know that he's going to have the ball in his hands enough to make the passes. Your passing is not valuable if you can't play defense enough to stay on the court, and you can't be efficient. If you're turning the ball over, if you're dribbling poorly and you can't shoot from the outside, you're just like I was going to say Derek Coleman. That is a way too outdated of a reference. You're just near the basket now. Yeah, I don't know where that. I guess because Derik, that's probably why. But to me, both of these dudes feel theoretical, and the path to what the upside is, I'm not excited enough about the upside to invest in the path. I think even if they get there, they end up getting there maybe a couple teams down the line or that sort of thing. But the Bulls, my local Bulls here, picking at 12, looking to get a long-term replacement at center for Vucevic. My Timberwolves picking at number 17. Nas probably out the door. What if we could get a Nas replacement or another center or a future replacement for Gobert? I fear, Brian, I may be disappointed on draft night because the teams that I follow closest want to bring in a big man. I like Thomas Sorber from Georgetown. I'm not in love with him. I just think he seems fine. Seems like a quality, decade-long, decent NBA center. I would rather, I like that for sure the upside isn't as high with him, but I think the floor is much, much higher. I think he has very good feel for the game and just some natural abilities. So that to me, him or Danny Wolf, I'd rather take a little bit of a gamble on one of those big guys instead. But, I'm always going to be a little skeptical on the big guys. Moving towards wrapping up here, we'll kind of rifle through a few names. You're my guy always on the internationals because I know you watch some international ball. Everybody wants to know who's the next big international star. It may not be in this draft. I'm not sure there is that name, but talk to me about a couple of names that do stand out to you.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in this draft because all their jumpers are freaking broken, it feels like. You know what I mean? So we'll start with Noah Essengay because he plays in Germany professionally. Germany's playing for their league championship right now in the basketball Bundesliga, if you will. And he left a team that's winning in the series right now in the championship to be in the NBA draft because he got invited. And a lot of people are kind of like, you sure you don't want to win a championship? And I tried to find examples of this, but I need to do some more digging because I couldn't find examples of like this happening before. I'm sure it has had to at some point where somebody leaves for the draft in season, but I don't know. I couldn't find any. So if you do have, please let me know.
His teammate Ben Seraph is stayed and played. His teammate's going to get drafted too, but decided I'm going to stay and play. Enjoy your trip to the US, buddy.
That's not great. And look, for people who don't know, in international domestic leagues, because EuroLeague's been finished for a while and all these different things, but like the domestic leagues, like in Spain, for example, Hugo Gonzalez, who is somebody else we should also mention who may go in the first round, expected to go in the first round of this draft. He is staying also. He plays for Real Madrid. They have a chance to win the Spanish ACB title. That's the top league in Spain. That's honestly the top domestic league probably in the world outside of the NBA. Domestic as in not Euro League because that's literally all of Europe. This is just Spain. So they're playing Valencia in the championship. They're up right now in the series, and he's staying out there. He got a DNP-CD last game, but he's not coming over to the States. It appears, at least I don't know at this rate. But like he is out there, and Noah just decided like he's gonna go to the draft, and occasionally you'll see some overlap, but I feel like guys tend to stay because like this is something that really just caught the crossfires of and it caught the attention of a lot of different people. But in terms of as a prospect, like Noah is tantalizing in terms of the potential, but he is incredibly raw. The jumper is not there, and he doesn't take a lot of threes and doesn't hit even 30% of them. And ultimately, like I don't know what he's gonna be. He's gonna play the forward position. He's gonna play a 4. He's definitely not a small ball 5, so do not try to make him that. And you hope that he can defend multiple positions, but like I think people are intrigued by the length, the potential for the athleticism. Can he finish? He shoots a very high percentage in Germany, but I don't know what he's going to be. Hugo Gonzalez in Spain, as I mentioned, he just doesn't get a lot of playing time. And that's not super uncommon because, again, games overseas, 40 minutes, not 48. Rotations are not really 9 or 8 deep. They kind of could go 10, 11 deep. There's less timeouts. It's a different style of basketball altogether. So it's not uncommon to see somebody who could be drafted just not play that much. But he doesn't really play that much, and he's on a great team, and that's part of the reason. Luka Doncic is a one of one. Like, dudes who are 18 don't typically win MVP of the EuroLeague, of the Final Four overseas. Like, that's what made him a one of one and why he should have been the number one overall pick. Gonzalez, I don't know if he has a jump shot, but the difference is he's a guard. He's 6'6", 6'7", and it's like, I don't know if he can shoot. I feel pretty confident in saying he could slash. We'll see what else he can do in the pros, but he's incredibly raw. I know some people from Spain are optimistic that he could be like one of the best players on their national team moving forward. And I think there's a case to be had there. That doesn't mean you're going to be a great NBA player, though. Like, it's just not necessarily the case. And Spain right now, is in a bit of a weird stretch internationally since winning the World Cup in 2019. Nolan Traore, who plays for Saint Quentin in France, is probably the international guy that I like the most in this draft because I think he's the best playmaker in this draft. It's like, okay, I have a skill set that I think can be elite. I have playmaking ability for a guy who could play point guard and who is tall, who is 6'4"-ish or something along those lines, maybe 6'5". We'll see. He looks kind of like LaMelo Ball when he's dribbling, so people are making those comparisons. I don't think he's that type of player ultimately, but he can score. I don't know if he can shoot either, but he can move the ball. And defensively, we'll see. The international guys are very raw this year, very raw. Like, this is not, Victor Wembanyama. I know what that's going to be. Alex Sarr, I felt better about him last year than I feel about any of these guys. And at one point, I thought Alex Sarr could have been the number one overall pick. And we still got, Risa who was drafted number one overall. But these guys, we'll see what happens with fit. But I like Nolan's playmaking. I think he's going to be a very good passer at the next level. We'll see.
Yeah, not a lot of huge intrigue in the internationals. I think we'll see a lot of these names go more toward the back of the first round, though, especially some of these teams that have like 3-4 picks and just want to like draft and stash and develop these guys a little bit. I think we'll have some good candidates there. A couple other names just that you may hear in the lottery still. 2 names that are in my top 10 on my board. Carter Bryant from Arizona. You probably did see him play this year. You just might not have noticed. He averaged something like 6 points and 4 rebounds a game. Arizona weirdly brought him off the bench all year. He is somebody I think that they probably would have gotten a bigger role for later, but he's already playing the role that he should be in the NBA. I'm going to give you 2 names here that are, I think, 3-and-D wing. So Carter Bryant, 3-and-D wing. The shot looks good. The athleticism is good. He's already playing that role. Both of these guys are like 4s that can play a little 3, maybe even some small ball 5, kind of that thing you're thinking of. So Carter Bryant, I think, fits that way. One of the other unknowns, not international, but just a guy that really rose was the combine breakout, Cedric Coward, the guy that just measured huge measurements, a ton of athleticism, just really crushed at the combine. If you're wondering, does that stuff matter? Well, the guy that crushed the combine 3 years ago was J-Dub, and he rose a lot and came into the lottery, and now he's an NBA champion as second best guy on the team in the finals pretty clearly to me. So Cedric Coward, he was playing D3 ball as recently as just a few years ago. He went to Eastern Washington. He transferred to Washington State this year, but only got 6 games and he got hurt. If you're wondering if teams like him, well, Duke likes him. Duke wanted him to come there, and he was going to transfer, but then got too much buzz in the draft and decided to stay in. So a bit of an unknown for sure. He rounds out my top 10 on my board. Obviously, many other names that we will get to as well. We will be back on Buckets with an NBA draft look with intel from Matt Moore and some best bets heading into the draft. We'll be talking about the draft. I'm sure night of the draft, Matt and I will be on live, and plenty of other reactions to come. We're already in full off-season mode. We're already getting trades. Everything's still to come. There's no off-season. The NBA never sleeps. We just ended. We started already. That's it. Hopefully you're ready for the NBA draft. Be sure to watch the Wednesday episode as well and get your bets in before we start out. That's it for today. Let's get buckets.